Hello fellow sim racers. Thanks to the latest release from the talented Race Sim Studio folks, today we're taking a trip back to 2004 to look at the Saleen S7-R. I must admit, after spending the day baking in the sun at Brands Hatch yesterday for the Blancpain GT Sprint Cup, the idea of throwing on a VR headset in the evening didn't strike me as all that appealing. But the surprise, for me at least, release of the latest car in the RSS GT Pack was more than enough to change my mind. Now, I must admit, I've been looking forward to the Saleen since the pack was released. While, due to obvious biases, the Lister was always my favourite of the early 2000s FIA GT cars, the Saleen more than held my interest with its purposeful race car looks and, modest 7-litre V8. By now, everyone should know what to expect from the RSS GT cars. They're fast, agile and grippy, but they need to be treated with the sort of respect you pay to your girlfriend's parents when you were first introduced. And the Saleen is no different in this respect. But that doesn't mean this car's indistinct from the others. If you've driven the RSS GT cars, then you'll know that the 4 previous cars all have distinct handling characteristics, and the Saleen definitely continues that trend. Starting with the big, torquey 600 brake horsepower Ford V8, power delivery is incredibly consistent throughout the rev range. At first, the gearing feels incredibly short, but it's also very usable. For example, on the default setup, I was hitting the rev limiter maybe 200 metres before the braking zone at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Like the other cars in the pack, it's pretty easy to spin up the rear tyres if you're haphazard with your right foot. The Saleen, however, seems to be able to do this a little lower in the rev range, so progressive throttle application is the order of the day, particularly accelerating away from slow corners like Druids or La Source. I feel like it's worth pointing out that these cars, despite having a semi-automatic gearbox, need you to blip the throttle when you're downshifting. I've seen a couple of video reviews of the GT Pack that seem to miss this, and predictably, those guys struggle to keep the car under control during braking. Moving on to cornering, and thankfully it's all good news in this respect as well. I like a car that's pretty lively mid-corner, and the Saleen definitely fits the bill here. The front end is agile and very willing to grip on turning, but be prepared to make adjustments mid-corner to keep everything pointed in the right direction. It reminds me of the Lister in this respect actually. Very gentle trail braking into corners will definitely help the front end stick and rotate the car on turning, but overdo it and you'll be fighting the rear. As with the other cars in the pack, the Saleen is extremely sensitive to tyre temperature. Getting the car set up such that the front and rear tyres are all in the right pressure and temperature range can be a little bit challenging, particularly on a cold racetrack. Moving on, it's probably a little too early to talk about how competitive the Saleen is against the other cars in the pack, but my gut feeling is that it's not going to topple the Ferrari's slight advantage. If you're an offline racer, then it is perfectly competitive against the other 4 AI cars. Again, if you're already familiar with the RSS GT Pack, then you'll know that the bar is set pretty high, and the Saleen doesn't disappoint. Externally, the car looks spot on to my untrained eyes, and the RSS guys have captured the aggressive and purposeful look of the car perfectly well. Moving inside, the attention to detail is as high as we've come to expect. Sitting inside any of the RSS GT cars in virtual reality is always a treat, as the myriad details come to life in front of your eyes. If anything, I think the textures in the Saleen are a shade better than the other cars, though that could be down to my own aesthetic preferences and inevitable biases. The one aspect of the RSS GT Pack that I've been a little critical of in the past is the stock skins, which in my opinion aren't quite up to the standards of the rest of the cars. It's never really been much of a big deal though, as we all know most users are going to download real-world skins for their cars. But I feel that I have to note that the stock, unlicensed skins look really good this time around, particularly those that ape the Conrad, Graham Nash and Vitaphone cars. A quick word about the sound before we move on. As you would expect, the RSS guys have absolutely nailed the sound for the Saleen. The GT Pack is renowned for pushing the limits of what Assetto Corsa can do from a sound perspective, and the Saleen continues this tradition with aplomb. I'm not going to rabbit on about how the car sounds because you guys have got ears, probably. So, if you've already purchased the RSS GT Pack, then the Saleen is awaiting your download, and I'm sure you'll love it just as much as I have. If you're that one guy who hasn't yet bought this essential Assetto Corsa mod, then all I can say is that you've been missing out. Yes, the mod costs €15, which some will argue is too expensive, but the RSS GT Pack delivers a lot of bang for your Eurobuck. Personally, I think it's excellent value for money, but your mileage may vary. All in all, the Saleen is a winner in my book. and with each successive release, the RSS guys are making sim racing these FIA GT Championship cars a more and more appealing proposition. Once again, I'd like to appeal to the team to consider producing the Porsche 911 and Ferrari 360 NGT cars so we can have some multi-class fun with this pack. But in the meantime, I say, bring on the Ferrari 575. If you're interested in purchasing the RSS GT Pack, then I've put a link in the video description. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, then it would be great if you could hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. If you've got any suggestions for content you'd like to see on the channel, then please let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for donating your precious free time by watching. It is very much appreciated. So all that's left to say is goodbye, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.